Cageside with John Morgan.
Pay-per-view fight week. We are here to break it down. Cageside with John Morgan. I'm your host, Eric McMahon. UFC 298 this coming weekend. I am just so stoked for this card because, in my opinion, it's not being sold hard enough with how damn stacked this card is. We'll also take a look back at UFC Fight Night just this past weekend in the Apex. We'll touch on it, but really, we are going to dive into 298. To help me do it, follow him on Twitter, John Morgan _MMA. His name is John Morgan. What up, brother?
Man, I'm glad that you started it the way that you did because you're right, man. You and I love the sport. You and I love fights, but there's pay-per-view fight weeks, man. And anytime there's a UFC pay-per-view, you know there's a little bit of excitement in the air because that's where the title fights happen. That's where the stacked matchups happen, where you got to actually put some money down for it. But this one, I think you're right. I mean, this thing is loaded. It feels like all the conversation in the world is already looking ahead to UFC 300 and what's going to headline that and what that card is all about. Bro, we got 298 and 299 even before we get there. This card is stacked.
I mean, it is stacked. I just want to start with like the early prelims. I mean, you're starting out with, KGB, Andrea Lee, and Miranda Maverick. I mean, that fight, in all honesty, could headline a fight night card. But then it just gets better and better and better from there. So, I know we're going to break down the whole card, but I just had to throw in a ranked fighter is the curtain jerker of the night.
Yeah, anytime you see ranked fighters there in that slot, I mean, on the early prelims period, but in the first fight of the night, that's crazy. And as long as we're touching on the early prelims, I mean, let's throw it out there. Danny Barlow fight week, right? I mean, I understand to the national audience, the international audience, they may be just looking at that as another little prelim, but to us, that's a big one that I know you've got circled.
Oh, I absolutely do. And truth be told, I interviewed him this Saturday night. I commentated a card for Attitude MMA, and it was streamed on the LFA Fight Network YouTube channel. Danny Barlow was in attendance, so we brought him over into the booth. And you want to talk about supreme confidence. This young man is operating with supreme confidence. And I actually talked to him. I said, listen, this Josh Quinlan, I mean, I'm not saying you're going to beat him, but if you want to talk about a tailor-made matchup for fireworks, two dudes who are going to stand and swing that are precision strikers and got the power to do it. This is a tailor-made matchup for Danny Barlow in his debut fight in the UFC, and that is going to be the featured fight of the early prelims. That's the featured fight of the early prelims. Danny Barlow, if you don't know who he is, go look him up. He is a spect. There's athletes, and then there's Danny Barlow.
Bro, he is one that right away obviously made his way through the CFFC. You got to see him up close quite a bit. I got to see him up close. And it was right away evident. One of those guys that you just look at and you go, man, that dude has got it. You know what I mean? He's got it. Now, you got to put it together at the highest level. It's a whole different game once you get to the UFC. We'll talk about that later when you talk about getting your first UFC main event, for instance. I mean, there are levels to this game, right? And so Danny Barlow's got to provide there. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I love this matchmaking, right? I think the matchmakers knew exactly what they were doing. It's a replacement opponent, but they did right with Josh Quinlan because he's going to come bring it. This is going to be fun early on. I think it's going to be a great debut. I was looking, nice to see the odds makers are favoring left-handed God as well. So I'm excited for this one for sure.
Now, let's be honest. This is a tailor-made matchup for Quinlan as well. So, it's not slanted towards Danny Barlow. Like, listen, Danny Barlow, he can wrestle. I've seen him in the training room wrestling with top-level wrestlers. But guess what? He ain't going to go and try and take Quinlan down. He ain't.
No. He's never going to do that. He wants to stand and bang. He wants to throw that big left hand, of course. And so I think Quinlan's going to want to do the same. I think it's going to be, as you said, it's going to be fireworks early on. Maybe somebody gets tagged and they decide to turn into a panic wrestler along the way. We'll see. But I think they're going to go out and have some fun. I'm excited for it. Like you said, it's no guarantee that Danny Barlow is going to win. This is a formidable opponent, but just stylistically and on paper, it looks like it's a lot of fun.
I mean, even on, let's go to the main card. I mean, we got Geoff Neal, Ian Garry. Golly, right? We're going to see Ian Garry, put that mouth on the line in this fight. Is he going to recover from all the, I guess, trauma that he had to go through in his last fight, not only with the smack talk, but then having to pull out everything that went around there. Is that going to mess with his mind frame as well? I mean, Dvalishvili, Henry Cejudo, are you freaking kidding me? Ilia Topuria and Volkanovski is a main event, but right in the co-main, you got Robert Whittaker and Paulo Costa. Dude, I'd pay double for this card.
It's crazy, right? Because this title fight itself, Volkanovski and Topuria, is so exciting, right? It's so intriguing, right? I mean, so that's so enthralling. But honestly, and so because of that, I mean, it's a worthy main event, of course. It's a championship matchup, all that. But literally, other than the fact that it's a title fight, I mean, you take those top 4 matchups and ask me which one you're most excited for, John Morgan. I'm like, I can make cases for all of them. You know what I mean? All of them have very good athletes. They're all very meaningful in the division. They all have incredible storylines behind them as well. I mean, every one of those fights, I mean, easy. Those other 3 could all headline. I mean, they could all headline fight night events easy, and they could be co-main events on any pay-per-view in the world. I mean, these are phenomenal fights. So yes, man, this card is stacked. And you're right. Here we are. It's fight week. I know it's just getting going, and once everybody gets to Anaheim and the media day happens and the press conference happens, things are going to turn up a notch for sure. But it does feel like at this point in the week, like people are a little sleeping on it a little bit, and I just don't know how.
Well, it's because the UFC runs every single weekend, so the retention that people have to have is not there, and it's always, what's the headliner? But like even me, I got done commentating the fights for Attitude on Saturday night. Then I went and caught the replay of the Hermansson Joe Pyfer fight.
Right.
Then I just, as a second nature, I'm gonna look at the card really quick, and it kind of blew me out of my seat again. I was like,
well, and I guess in fairness, there was some stuff going on in the sporting world this past weekend. There was
right.
there was something happening. I heard a lot of people may have watched.
Taylor Swift's boyfriend played football. We got it.
Taylor Swift's boyfriend played football. That is exactly that's what was understood in my household. That's for sure. My wife had the Taylor Swift's boyfriend's cookies made, and she had a T-shirt that said "Go Taylor's boyfriend." She was literally watching Taylor Swift's boyfriend play football.
My business partner, David Ferguson, who's a legend. Like if I've never talked about him, he's a legend in the MMA game. Fought Dan Severn back in '98. He was the godfather of MMA around here. Got his brown belt from Royce Gracie. He's just a legend. But anyways, he told me this morning he asked his daughter who she was rooting for in the Super Bowl, and she said Taylor Swift. That was her honest to God response. Who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl? And she said Taylor Swift.
I love it. I saw a meme yesterday that said like Taylor Swift made her first Super Bowl before Dak Prescott. As a Cowboys fan, I'm like that one hurt. I'm like, I get it, but that hurts. But you know what, man? It's funny. I mean, obviously we're talking about mixed martial arts, but it has been funny how like controversial people have seen it. Like they've been mad that they're showing Taylor Swift and that she's a part of it. Honestly, I dig it, man. To have all the girls and the women in the world like want to tune into the game, even if that's what they're tuning in for. I love it, man. It kind of reminds me of when Ronda Rousey, obviously on a whole different scenario, but when Ronda Rousey came to the UFC and all of a sudden there were women and daughters that were paying attention to mixed martial arts that never did before. I don't understand the issue, man. The more the merrier. Let's all have some fun. Now we can watch football together instead of you saying, nah, just go be alone for 3 hours.
I saw a funny post that somebody said, hey, CBS, be fair. Show her reaction on bad plays too.
Okay, all right. I see that too. That
would have been funny. But all right, I'm gonna put the ball in your court. Do we want to talk the Hermansson win briefly and then get into 298, or are we just diving straight in?
I mean, let's just touch on it briefly, because I'll be honest with you, I don't think it deserves a whole lot of it. They're not deserve is probably the wrong word, but needs really. You know what I mean? It just doesn't need a whole lot of dissecting. It was Joe Pyfer early, looking like that guy we all thought he was, man, the bully, right? I mean, big. And that first round and a half, I'm like, this dude is going to be a problem in this division. Yeah. Just, the aggression that he has, the strength and the size. But Jack Hermansson, man, he showed, I think, the value of that veteran savvy, right? I mean, he outlasted and weathered the storm and, continued to land those leg kicks throughout, those little calf kicks. He was pumping the jab as well. And man, he just kept pushing when Joe Pyfer couldn't. He just couldn't get out of second gear again. You know what I mean? So, it's a fight that it's not like you're going to go back and watch it a whole lot. It wasn't the most exciting fight of all time. And the whole night, there weren't a ton of big performances. I mean, Dan Ige comes to mind as somebody that walked away with an incredible performance. But as far as the main event goes, not the greatest fight of all time. I think the key is just going to be that I bet a lot of people jump off the Joe Pyfer bandwagon, and I'm not ready to do that just yet. I think the guy still has some skills. I think we see this a lot in MMA, right? You're the young, hot prospect. There's a lot of excitement upon you. There's a lot of expectations on you. And then you fight that veteran. You get to that level where you go, oh, wait a minute. There's still other things that I have to do. There's still things I have to get better at. There's still things I have to do mentally, that I have to do. Dealing with all the media that he had to do, all the attention that he had, all those things kind of weighed on him. So I think a lot of people are going to want to jump off the bandwagon. I'm not just yet. I think there's a future there, but this was a night where Jack Hermansson reminded everybody, hey, there's a reason I've been in the UFC this long. There's a reason I'm still in the rankings. And afterwards, he asked for a very, very reasonable matchup with Nasruddin Imavov, who fought last week. Say, I think that makes sense. So I think that's probably a good fight to make, and he'll move on. But I think Pyfer still has a bright future ahead.
I think he's got a tremendously bright future. He now learned what it feels like going into the deep, deep, deep water. I was still impressed with him in a loss, and I'll tell you why. The whole talk was going to be he's been into the third round once in his entire career. What's 4 and 5 going to be like if it gets there? He had the energy to keep going. He was still throwing big shots. He was just ultimately compromised from about the late second round on. And for somebody to have that perseverance to keep going through, add a little tweak here, tweak there, the game plan's going to be out on him. Attack his legs. The game 100%. Plan's out, right? We shore up that little hole, which I'm not even sure how you shore up those holes there. But with that being said, he showed that he's not a one-round KO fighter. He can go the distance, right? And so I took a lot of positives with Joe. Now, I was singing his praises more than anybody. I was like, this guy's a star. He gets that knockout. They're going to strap the rocket ship. Hey, listen, great learning experience. I don't think we need to touch on it anymore. You want to get into 298?
Yeah, let's get into 298.
All righty.
So, sorry, Joe. We wish you well in the future. I think there's bright days ahead, but we got to move on, baby. It's UFC 298.
The champion, Alexander Volkanovski, taking on the new kid on the block, the savage on the block, the one who ain't afraid to tell you about how good he is, Ilia Topuria. Saturday night, UFC 298 from the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. The odds closed even closer, John. We were shocked. Well, wow. I guess I really wasn't, because you said, dang, you asked me the odds last week.
Yeah, you nailed it. You
minus 120. I nailed it, right? And you said, I thought it would have been 150. And I said, well, it's really because of XYZ. It's closed even more. Now we have Volk at a minus 112. So it closed about 8 more points. Are you shocked by that?
I am, because I was shocked to see it originally, and to see it closing even more, I guess really just goes to show the respect, and goes to show why I think we're all so intrigued by this. Alexander Volkanovski, no questioning the man's greatness, right? I'm not sitting here trying to say like, oh, he's not that good, or I think he's been overrated all this time. Hell no, I'm not saying any of that. Alexander Volkanovski is the man, but there are question marks around him, right? He's coming off a knockout. He's making a pretty quick turnaround. Where are things standing? Man, how about this revelation that he says, look, I wasn't even training last time out. I was kind of drinking every day, and I wasn't really ready for a fight. I mean, unbelievable. Now, I would imagine that loss was a wake-up call, and this man, is a professional through and through. So I imagine that's certainly not the case this time around, but it just starts to, what's going on in life? Where's the focus at? And, got a lot of kids. And as you know, I mean, look, that takes a lot of time. Being a professional athlete, I just got one, and that's enough for me, man. Here you got a whole crew going on, and Alex does the same. So a lot of questions. So yeah, man. To be honest with you, I guess I'd say I'm shocked, because I was shocked to see where it is, but I think it's accurate. I think the line is accurate. The only reason I'm shocked is just because I thought the public has so much love for Alexander Volkanovski that number was going to lean to his favor, just because he's Volk. But they're not. You can tell this is an educated betting public right now to have this thing sitting at essentially a pick 'em.
I'm shocked that it's closing. I think that the induced betting at minus 120 was for money to come in on Volkanovski. I believe that's probably what Vegas was thinking. Right. So I am very surprised that it's shrinking even more. And especially, I mean, that just shows the confidence that people really have in Topuria. Because if we really look at his resume, we see how utterly dominant he's been, but the caliber of competition, like, it doesn't even, it's not even, I'm not even going to say it's not even in the same ballpark. It's not even in the same sport that Volkanovski has faced. Like, let's be honest, his hardest fight, probably either Josh Emmett or Bryce Mitchell, right? So, and those are two guys that, you know, I think we can safely say they're always going to be in a, you know, in a ranked role just by the way they fight. But are they true ever title contenders? Like, I don't think so. And I know that Josh Emmett did get his shot and all those reasons, but that a lot was circumstances too. So that's why it shocks me that the odds are where they are. It's not discounting Topuria's skill set, because me and you both said, I said skill for skill set for skill set. This is Volk's toughest opponent, and I did put Islam Makhachev into that conversation. So just skill set for skill set. I want to be clear there.
Yeah, I was about to say, you have certainly been, supportive of Topuria and his abilities, but you're right. It's something you want to see, right? It's hard to expect things that you haven't seen before in any circumstances, right? You want to see that it's been done before, or there's question marks, you know what I mean? And so there's certainly right here. You know, it's funny, I was looking at the line. It actually opened at minus 175 Volkanovski and has been bet all the way down to where it is now. I'm going to be real interested to see what happens through the rest of this week. I mean, Is there any chance that this thing flips? Is there any chance that this goes off with Topuria as a favorite? I mean, I would find that incredibly shocking, but we're trending in that direction. We're almost here, and I think you hit the nail on the head, because with Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell, they're elite athletes. There's no question. They're incredible fighters, right? They're like you said, they're ranked competition, but they're kind of specialists in a way. You know what I mean? With Josh Emmett, you know, you look at him and you go, you know, obviously everybody in the UFC is good overall, but you think of him, it's like, man, if that dude hits you with that one shot, you're going to be in trouble. So stay away from the power. And if you know, hey, as long as I stay away from the power, I think we're going to be okay. I'll test myself everywhere else. Bryce Mitchell, hey, man, you know, tricky on the ground. Let's be very, very careful in any grappling situations, because he's scrambly, he's wiry, he's got some great stuff. But Topuria is just like an elite level athlete on top of everything. Like, that dude, no matter what sport he played, whatever sport he decided to go be in, he was going to be really good at it. You know what I'm saying? He just happened to choose fighting. So I'm intrigued, man. How do you pick against Alexander Volkanovski, right?
And that's what I wanted to say, John Morgan. Yeah. It's so hard. You can't. I mean, we just talked Topuria's two biggest opponents, right? Toughest, let's say, was Emmett and Bryce Mitchell.
Yep.
You know, now you look at Volks. I mean, Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, Max Holloway 3 times, Brian Ortega, Korean Zombie, Islam twice, Yair Rodriguez, right? That's why I said it's not even in the same, let alone ballpark sport at that point.
No, I know. It's wild, right? Because, you know, I did pick against Alexander Volkanovski twice when it was Islam Makhachev, but that's not a featherweight fight. That's a lightweight that barely makes lightweight. You know what I mean? That like struggles to get every ounce of water out of his body to just barely make 155 for 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, jumps on the scale. That's a bit, like, he is huge. And I thought, you know, the skill set added in with the size, like, it's just going to be too much. Appreciate Volkanovski for having the courage to want to step up and move up a division and do it, but it always seemed like a tall order for me. But 145, I mean, best featherweight in the world, right? Absolutely the best featherweight in the world. So how do you pick against him? As you said, the track record, he's fought everybody in the division and looked damn good doing it, right? I mean, he has looked incredible against some of these guys. And, you know, I know there was, you know, some close Max Holloway decisions along the way, but I mean,
only Max Holloway's one.
Exactly. Only the first one. After that, Volkanovski got it done. So it's tough, man, because I don't want to pick against Alexander Volkanovski, but I can't write off Ilia Topuria and just how good he is and how legitimate his chances are. And you touched on it earlier, the confidence that man has. And listen, confidence and mentality and self-belief is meaningful in this sport. And that dude has it. You can snuff it out sometimes. You know, if you know guys well enough, you can tell guys that are just telling themselves something to try to want to believe it. No, this dude is like Conor McGregor levels of self-confidence and self-belief in who he is as a fighter. And that is powerful in the cage, man. I was fired up. I'm more fired up, bro. I'm even more fired up right now.
I wanted to bring up last week, in the Apex, the one that I was reffing at. You were there in attendance, and Ilia Topuria was there as a spectator. And when we talk about confidence, it's going to be just go with me where I'm here, follow me when I'm taking you on this little journey. I got this like really weird like aura about him when he was walking through the Apex. Like, he's flanked by people. He's got the damn turtleneck up to here with like the sports coat on over it. He is high and tight, looking like $1 million. And he had the aura, and this is going to sound crazy, of like those like highest ranking drug lords who are just walking through a situation with zero fear of anything and being like, I am the man, get the F out of my way. Like, he just had, I'm not saying he was trying to emulate that or anything. He just had that aura about him that I irradiated from across the Apex.
Bro, I get it, and you're 100% right. You know, a guy that used to be like that for me was Lorenzo Fertitta, right? Like, Lorenzo Fertitta, if you didn't know who he was and he walked into a room, you would just know he was somebody. You know what I mean? You might not know exactly who he is or what he does, but that dude would walk in, and the way he carried himself and the way he presented himself, you were just like, damn, who is that dude? He must be doing something right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And Ilia, you're right, man. He's got that about him. I don't know if I'd say he's like a drug lord. I'm not going to try him. I'm not going to try that out on him.
Follow me on this journey. It's going to end in somewhere. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna check it out. Press conference on Thursday night. I'm going to be like, Ilia, hey, man, I just want to let you know, my guy Eric, he says you're like a drug lord, bro. Would you care to respond to that?
I just meant like the supreme confidence.
Yep.
Walking through a situation, knowing you can handle anything. And like, I mean, even the way he had that chin up in the air, like, you're right.
Listen, some people, and as we're saying this, if you're maybe a casual fan of the sport or new to the sport, you're like, why the hell does that even matter? We're talking about punches and kicks and submissions and all that. It matters, man. Self-belief and self-confidence in there. Dude, a fist fight in a steel cage is one of the scariest, most nerve-wracking, most chaotic experiences a human being can have in their life. And when there are people that can operate above that can control that don't let that little bit of self-doubt creep in, that little bit of hesitation creep in, because that messes with you and it messes with your game, especially at the highest level. When you're talking about this level, UFC championship level, now you're talking about 1 little % here, 1 little % here, you know, that little bit of difference that you're looking to have. And so the mentality and that self-confidence, it is incredibly meaningful in there. And this dude has it. So
me and you, we don't like to pat ourselves on the back, but we do when it's accordingly. We're pretty good at saying where our path to victory is at, right? Like, this is the path to victory. If A and B happen early, expect, C, D, and E. And I don't honestly out there, I don't know if there's too many more people that are students of the game more than us on a real like stylistic level. This fight has me just baffled. Right? I truly don't know where Topuria's path to victory is. But consequently, I really don't know what Volk's is either. I think his best path to victory is just a bulldozing nature. But I don't know if he's the better striker. I don't know if he's the better grappler. On the other side, I don't know if Topuria is the better striker. I don't know if he's the better grappler. I don't know who has the speed advantage. The only thing I think I know is that the raw power of Volk may be higher. That's the only one I think I know.
It's so funny, man, because you and I, even though we've talked, leading up to this, how excited we are for the fight, you and I have yet to have a conversation where we break down how it goes, what we think. We just talked about, we're excited for it. And as you're sitting there starting to lay out how this breakdown should go, in my head, I'm like, I hope he doesn't call on me first, man, because I'm not really sure how this thing is going to go. Because you just eloquated exactly what I feel, man. Is that I don't know, because in my head I think, Topuria is a slick grappler. Like his grappling to me is so fun to watch. But Volkanovski is very powerful, and he's a good grappler as well. I don't think maybe a slick, but as you said, a little more powerful. I don't think he's easy to take down. Maybe in some scrambling situations, Topuria might be a little bit quicker, might be able to find some opportunities there. But I mean, gosh, look no further than Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega for incredible submission defense, incredible escapability, right? So it's like, is he better than Brian Ortega? Like, I don't know if he's better than Brian Ortega. He's good. So then I think about the striking. And look, man, we've seen Topuria have some nice hands. He's definitely got power. I mean, he's not just a grappler. He's got power in his hands. But exactly what you just said, so does Alexander Volkanovski. And you think about Volkanovski, you can never forget, that 215-pound rugby player version of Alexander Volkanovski as well that still resides deep within the heart of him.
That's why I only say the raw power.
That's it. He's a brute of a human being. So, So it's so funny because I'm sitting here thinking the same thing. It's like, do you want to stand and trade with Volkanovski? Like, no. But do you want to stand and trade with Topuria either? No, probably not. So, all right, well, then we need to get it to the ground. Ooh, both there. So, I would be very, very intrigued to hear what the game plans are. And I almost wonder if it's a situation. I mean, Volkanovski is pretty honest. He won't be honest pre-fight, obviously, but he's pretty honest about his skill set and his opponents. And it might be a situation where he just goes, you know what? I know we're getting in a fist fight, and I know this is a bad dude, and I just have to rely on my heart and my experience at the highest level, because that's one thing he boasts in spades over Topuria, right? Ilia Topuria has not been in these, championship level performances. And so, we're not just talking about the added 2 rounds that you might have to go. Yeah, he had a main event. He went 5 rounds, but we're not just talking about that. We're talking about, the amount of attention, the amount of responsibilities that he's going to have. And, you see it often with foreign fighters as well, right? Like, they not only are they going to have to come do all their fight week stuff, but all their local media back home is going to be very, very interested in what they're doing. So they're going to be doing, second and third rounds of media even more than Volkanovski might be doing at this point in his career. So, man, it's so intriguing. I don't know what the path to victory is. The fact that the odds are basically a pick 'em is the way I feel about this fight. What do we say? I always feel like the fights I get most excited about are the ones that I just look at and go, I don't know. And this is one of those fights where I'm like, I don't know.
But usually the way we say I don't know is say, could somebody get this person there, or can somebody defend them being taken there?
Right.
That's the way we don't know things. Yeah, 99 times out of 100. This is that one time out of 100 where I'm like, I don't know. Will we go there or will we go here? Who's better here or who's better there? Because what we've seen from Volkanovski, like in a grappling situation, is like, one, he can change levels on anybody. That's not really what we saw in the Islam Makhachev fight. But if he is there, he can get up when I'm not saying he can get up when he wants to. He did that every single time to Islam. And now, in the Brian Ortega fight, I mean, we saw situations where Ortega jumped that submission, right? And then, very rarely, I mean, I think maybe I've seen one tighter, like, choke in, like, a mounted guillotine like that. And I think that was where, like, isn't that where, who was it? Nate Diaz had Dan Miller's tongue sticking out? That was the only one I could think of that was tight. And Volkanovski got out of a Brian Ortega signature guillotine.
That's
twice.
That was really, dude, that was, I mean, I remember watching that going, this is over. Like, oh my God, he did it. He did it. Oh my God, he beat him. And he got out of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of escapability he has twice. It's incredible, right? Absolutely incredible, man. This dude is amazing. So, yeah, if you're I feel like, as I think about it, I feel like it's going to be, I don't even necessarily know a mistake, right? But it's going to be like scrambles and transitions, right? Even if it means striking, it's going to be something where I just, it's something that you don't see coming. It's something that somebody gets off balance for one moment, or they're turned the wrong way for one moment, and that's what changes things. I just think we're in for a hell of a fight, man, because I do not know how I would coach either one of these to say, like, because as you said, normally it's like, look, I don't know if it's going to happen, but if fighter X can do this, this, and this, he's going to walk away with a win here. You know what I mean? And I just don't know what this, and this is in this situation.
Right?
Man. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if he can win, he can win. Like, that's all I know. It's amazing.
The only outlier here, in my opinion, I know that Topuria's head is screwed on straight right now. I saw it firsthand last week. Supreme confidence. He is dialed and laser focused. Do we know about Volkanovski? Let's take a rewind. Volkanovski said he's dealing with issue. He dealt with issues, right? Mm-hmm. We have to add that into the equation. He brought it up. It wasn't me, right?
Right.
Now let's bring up the fact that in the last fight, he said that, when he got the call, he was on the couch drinking, and he was doing a lot of drinking, right? Why are we doing a lot of drinking? It's probably because we're dealing with stuff here too, right? That's going to be, I'm just going to make that assumption, but he brought it up, not me. Then we got the aspect of he got brutally head kick knocked out. What's that going to, even if he is recovered, what's that do here? We got the drinking, we have the mind games, and we have the head kick knockout. That's the outlier here. That, you know what I mean?
100%. And it's, as you said, the things about the drinking and the focus. I mean, as you said, he brought it up willingly, and he's brought out there. It's a realistic discussion, right? I mean, when a guy says, and look, he's not the only one that ever heard say, well, I probably shouldn't have taken a fight, but I took a fight thinking it would get me right. You know what I mean? Like, because you're so used to that routine, you're so used to that lifestyle that you take a fight thinking, well, if I get that going, everything will be good. Guess what? That never works. Like, it does not make anything better. Like, it's not going to make you, feel whole inside. And no, it just doesn't. So it is interesting. Now, knowing Volkanovski, knowing what a competitor is, like, I almost feel like, and seeing how powerful that footage is, right? Where he's in the locker room talking about that he's embarrassed and, all these things around him. And man, his coach has come out and said that, man, I never even considered that we were going to win that fight because it was just, it was horrible circumstances and we shouldn't have done it. Volkanovski seems to me like the kind of guy that's so competitive and hard-headed that he would completely stop drinking after that, simply for the fact to prove that he can win. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's
100%.
Even if he's not, even if he hasn't addressed the issues, even if he haven't made it any better, like, he's that guy that would just be like, all right, I'm off. I don't do it anymore. So I think physically,
he's a champion for a reason. He has that championship mindset. He may not have it, but we know it's in there, and there's zero doubt in my mind that he is going to have it.
So it's an outlier and it's worth discussing, but I believe that he will have done everything physically. But the one thing that you can't do is take away the damage that head kick did, right? I mean, that's just real. We know that, the body and the brain especially takes time to recover after knockouts like that. And, what is the biggest thing? I mean, why do you get suspended for 30 days or 60 days with no contact after a knockout? Because they don't want your brain rattling around anymore, because you're more susceptible to knockouts, after you've had the one. So, he hasn't given a lot of time. You'll hear fighters say, man, maybe take a year off, maybe take 6 months off. We're talking about 4 months here, and we're talking about an intense training camp along the way. And I'm sure precautions were taken. I don't imagine he was in there doing, hard sparring at this point in his career. That's not really necessary. But it's just a reality of the situation. We're only talking about 4 months removed from a knockout loss. So that is very much a factor that you have to consider when you're breaking down this fight.
I guess we'll wait and see, because I don't have any. Like, I wish I could provide more insight, everybody. I really wish I could, but I can't.
What's crazy is, and I think this is what really breaks it down, is, at least this is the way I feel, everything about this fight tells me that Ilia Topuria should win this fight. Everything about it, all the circumstances, the backstory, the skill set, but I can't pick against Alexander Volkanovski at 145 pounds. That dude is made of something different. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't count him out of anything. So I got my head telling me, man, it looks like everything's lining up for this guy. But then I got my head telling me over here, man, and maybe my heart as well, like, bro, don't forget, that's Alexander Volkanovski. And I think I think the great, that's Alexander. They don't just call him that because it sounded good as a nickname. You know what I mean? He is that. And I just feel like afterwards it's going to be one of those where it's like, either A, we're like, damn, Ilia really is that good. He really is the new kid on the block. He really is the guy that everybody thought he could be. Or we're going to go, man, how did anybody ever even doubt for a minute that Alexander Volkanovski was that dude?
Volkanovski has the ability to make nearly everybody look stupid Saturday night.
Bro, I need it to be Saturday now. I can't, dude, just sitting here talking. This is the most I've really got to sit down and talk about it, man. I mean, we've had this one circled on the calendar for a while. We know, I mean, from the moment this one got announced, we were all like, ooh, that's a great fight. And I'm telling you, you know it, man. Behind the scenes, when we're at events, when we're doing whatever, we're all talking. We're all fans at the end of the day, right? What are you looking forward to? What's going on? Everybody's been talking about this fight, but to really sit and dig into it, man, I need it to be Saturday night. I cannot wait to be Cageside in Anaheim.
The next fight, we're just going to move on because, like I said, we break down fights, but we can't break this one down. So it is what it is at this point. Other than breaking it down and being tremendously excited, the next fight that I am tremendously excited about is Merab Dvalishvili and Henry Triple C Cejudo. Now, have you looked at the line on this fight?
I have not.
Okay, what do you think the line is and for who?
I would say simply based on reputation, name value, who he is, I would imagine that Henry Cejudo is a favorite. I might even say like a minus 170. I have a feeling he's being undervalued, Merab Dvalishvili. That's my guess.
You know what? You're pretty close. Okay. Merab Dvalishvili is the minus 198 favorite.
Wow. That's amazing.
I no-sold it there. You were nowhere close, John Morgan.
That's amazing. You know what? But you know what? And I'm glad I added the caveat off the top because I honestly, if we're just breaking down skill for skill, talent for talent, where they stand in their career, I like Merab Dvalishvili as the favorite there. But Triple C is that name, right? Triple C is that guy with the accomplishments. He's the guy with the history. He's, one of the greatest combat sports athletes of all time. And so, I felt that maybe the odds makers and the general public was going to be valuing that. But I like Dvalishvili in the spot. But this kind of leans into like the main event as well. Where like Merab Dvalishvili is, to me, is that guy. I've been such a Merab Dvalishvili fan from the moment he came into the UFC. Like, the Machine, you talk about a great nickname there. The Machine, like that dude can go 5 rounds, right, nonstop, relentless. And I love that. But Henry Cejudo is that guy as well. You talk about the greatness of Alexander Volkanovski. You may not like the king of cringe, but Triple C is special, man. A gold medal, 2 world titles. He is a special athlete, and he's trying to do something very, very difficult here, and it's an uphill battle. But if there's anybody that, again, you don't count out, it's Henry Cejudo.
This is a fight I think I can break down. All right. Now, everybody knows that the Olympic caliber wrestling of Henry Cejudo. It's no secret. He will tell you about it, right?
Did you know he's won a gold medal?
Yeah. Do you know he's the greatest combat sports athlete of all time?
I've heard somebody say that. I believe it was him.
A 2-weight class UFC champion. I don't know. I've never heard it before. But just in case you didn't know, like, don't worry. Wait till the press conference. He'll tell you. His arsenal is, in my opinion, just a lot bigger, right? He has a lot more ways to win. And that's why I'm absolutely baffled. I am baffled by this line. I can be made to look stupid. Listen, I think, Merab has one path to victory, and it's to pressure and hold Henry against the cage.
Right.
I think that, and that's what he does. He'll pressure you, will hold you up against the cage and start beating you up on the inside. I just think in those close quarters, Henry's has the answers. Now, is the age going to I don't even know what the age difference between them is, right? But, Henry, obviously, what we would suspect has a little more miles on him, or at least I don't know. What, how old is Merab? He's 33.
So Merab's 33, Cejudo's 37. So it's not significant. I mean, Merab's not like a young pup. It's not like some 25-year-old, just full of piss and vinegar. You know what I mean? Like but he's the machine. I mean, he really is the machine. Because see, that's
do you think he can hold Henry Cejudo against the cage? I don't think he's winning the striking matchup. I think if it gets down to the ground and the scrambling ability, I don't think he wins there. To me, it's going to say, can he consistently keep Henry on his back foot. And in those times, can he hold him against the cage for significant amounts of time? That's where the fight is. You agree?
You're 100% accurate about that. But the thing is, man, and it's why I've been such a fan of Merab, because that dude has weaponized his pace and his cardio to a better degree than I think anybody else probably in the sport. You know what I mean? And I think his approach is very much Khabib Nurmagomedov like, not in that their style is exactly the same, but in that, okay, yes, you can stop one takedown. I have no doubt that the Olympic gold medalist can stop one of my takedowns. Can you stop 100 of my takedowns? Can you stop my takedowns relentlessly nonstop for 25 minutes at 37 years old, not having as much experience as of late, taking the layoffs that you have? Can you keep up with that pace? And again, Henry Cejudo is a phenomenal athlete. So if there's anybody that you're going to say that even at 37 years old has the ability to do that, it might be. But that pace, you're right. I don't think Merab's gonna, knock him out. I don't think, I think he'll do some damage as he's pushing. It's not like he only wrestles. He throws some short shots in there and he'll grind, like you said. But you are right. I think it's going to be the key for Merab is 100% to keep Cejudo on his back foot, to keep him always in defense, to keep him guessing, to make him busy. But if there's a guy that can do that, it's Merab Dvalishvili. That dude can literally go for 25 minutes straight. So this is another one where I find it incredibly intriguing, and it's another one where I like, quote unquote, the challenger and Merab Dvalishvili, the new name that's trying to get his title shot. But it's hard to go against Triple C, man, because he's shown us time and time again that he is that good.
Yeah, and see, I lean the other way. I lean Triple C. I know the layoff, I know the age, I know the statistics around it, right? But I also know that there's championship pedigree mindsets for a reason. I know Triple C has it. Right. And I know that he is a analytically smart fighter when it comes to how they approach fights. Like go watch his breakdowns on other fights. The guy knows his stuff. And I truly believe that one of the reasons he kind of switched to that wide open, almost karate stance-esque style is so a wrestler like him doesn't get put on his back foot. And I think he can change angles. And listen, there's no doubt in my mind, Merab is going to put him against the fence and hold him for a big amounts of time. But do I think that, he can then impose damage from there? This is the way the fight goes, in my opinion, which I'm utterly fascinated to see if it can really come to fruition. It's Henry's on the outside. He's loosey-goosey. He's really loosey-goosey on his feet. Bing, bang, boom, a few shots. Merab was willing to eat him to close the difference. Henry shucks it off. Then Henry gets put on the cage. Henry's there for a little bit of a time. Not sure if Dvalishvili is going to impact any damage there or not. Eventually, Henry's going to have to work really, really, really hard to get him off of him. He gets him off them, ends with a couple strikes. He's going to be able to do that through rounds 1, 2, and 3, in my opinion. Can he do it in round 4 or 5? Yeah.
Can he continue to do that? It's interesting because you're so right. As I'm really diving into envisioning this one in my head, I start to think now, because you talked about damage, and you're so right. And we talk about the scoring criteria, right? Where damage is supposed to trump all. And I can really see it where, there's a couple rounds in here along the way where Merab absolutely controls the action and controls the positioning. But in one of those scrambles, because as you said, and I agree with you, I don't think this is going to be drive in and you're there for 5 minutes and you just work from the clinch. You know what I mean? It's going to be reset and do it again, reset and do it again, and reset and do it again. And in one of these moments, Henry Cejudo might be able to land something because he's got some great hands. He's got some great striking. He's polished up. I think he's got more, packs a little bit more power in his shots. And so, what if, Merab controls 3.5 minutes of the round against the cage and the clinch, but it's Cejudo that wobbles him with one big shot, or that lands the best flurry, or kicks to the legs and does some damage there. And are the judges, correctly awarding that as the damage? I think that could absolutely happen. So it's intriguing, man. It's intriguing. And it's so meaningful in the division now, right? Especially, and I think, that made this kind of all step up a little bit, right? With Aljamain Sterling, moving up a division, of course, losing the title, but moving up a division as well. Merab and Aljamain, of course, were never, ever, ever going to fight. I mean, they said it. It's no amount of money. It does not matter. You know, Merab that's my brother. You know, and by the way, some people give him grief for that. I respect the hell out of that. That you have enough morals that there's one guy. You know, not okay. You know, well, I trained with that guy one time, and so I don't want to fight him. Like we hear that sometimes. Like, bro, you guys sparred once.
Yeah, and especially like at Jackson Wink where there's like 100 guys.
Yeah, get over it. You know what I mean? Like guys at ATT, like some guys at ATT have to end up fighting each other every now and then. But there's times when that's your everyday training partner, that's your brother, that's your friend, and for him to say like, even if I never become champion, I will never fight him because you know it's his. I love that. But now it does become more meaningful, and I think that was a big problem. And I think honestly, it's why Dana White and the UFC brass honestly didn't put a lot of push behind Merab. Because they knew, well, what do? You know what I mean? Oh, you win, but you're not going to fight the champ. So what's the stakes, right? We talk about the stakes of the fight. There used to be no stakes when he fought. It would just be like, let me see if I can keep other contenders from getting to the belt. Now there's real stakes. It's a real number one contender fight. My brother has moved on to another division. Now I can go challenge for the title. And oh, by the way, I like talking trash to the champ too, so I want to go do it. I mean, Merab's social media presence is incredible. By the way, I don't know who he's working with that's helping him come up with some videos and stuff, but he has done fantastic, and people are starting to really see his personality. And I think I think a lot of that is because now it means something. Now he will fight for the title, and this is intriguing.
And Triple C called for this fight, and he called for it the night that he lost to Aljamain. So. I don't know if that was emotion talking in that moment, and now he's writing a check. But, you know, I mean, I don't know. But I just lean like, listen, they're both proven commodities. But I think when all things are equal, in my opinion, I then have to go with paths to the most ways to win. I truly believe Henry Cejudo has more paths to victory here, but except maybe the cardio, you know, because he does wane a little bit. I mean, he waned against Aljo, right? That's what lost him the Aljo fight, right? I think it was the perception. I gave Henry Cejudo, I forgot what rounds I gave him. I just remember I ended up saying I thought he won the fight, but you could see like the body language and stuff. He did look like he was getting tired, and I think perception wise, that was a key thing on the judges' scorecards as well. And so that's an outlier here as well. Merab ain't gonna get tired.
That's it. You know, first of all, it's funny talking about Cejudo calling for this fight. I will say all the respect in the world, right? I mean, he just wants the hardest fights available. He wants the biggest name, the toughest fight, the guy everybody says can't be beat. I respect that because, man, if I was in their shoes, I'm picking the easiest fight, the dude that I think sucks the worst. You know what I mean? That's the guy I want to fight. Put me against the worst guy in the division. That's what I want. He wants the best. But I'll tell you what, man, and I love it. And this is a situation where it's hard to pick against Triple C. The track record is there, but you laid it out perfectly. I happen to believe that Merab's, you know, we talk about guys that have cardio. We talk about guys that have, like, I believe his is like the best in the game. Like that dude just is relentless to the point he doesn't let you think. You know, he is as savvy and as experienced as Cejudo is in there. Like it's going to be nonstop. And you know what's that's like, man, when you just don't even have time to think because you're constantly defending, and the dude never, ever, ever slows down for 25 minutes. A guy could go 50 minutes. A guy could go 75 minutes. He's a stud. I like Dvalishvili here. As hard as it is for me to pick against Henry Cejudo.
Yeah. Are you still shocked at the minus 198?
Shocked. I'm shocked. Yeah, because to be honest with you, I thought that was like me, honestly, maybe some internal bias that I had. Because I just from the moment I saw Merab, I'm like, dude, this dude is different. Like he's cut different. So I thought maybe it was just me. But man, I am shocked to see that. It seems the odds makers and the general public are seeing that greatness and that, you know, differential within him as well. So I am actually shocked. I thought the reputation alone of Henry Cejudo would warrant him being the favorite.
Put some respect on Triple C. Vegas, put some damn respect on Triple C. Look at him doing this.
He wins this one. He's gonna let you know about it. That's for sure. I love him, man. He's such a character. He's such a character, but he does it to promote the fights, man. He does it. I've had conversations with Cejudo, you know, kind of off record or whatever, and he's like, man, like, and actually, you know, he said it on. I remember he said it in a media scrum one day, and it was so great. He's like, do you know like how hard it is? Like what a target it puts on me and pressure it puts on me. Like I'm going out there pulling like, snakes on stage and pulling rabbits out of hats. And so he's like, I got people's faces on pillows. He's like, now I got to go in and I got to step up and deliver on that, man. He's like, I'm talking all this trash. That's just putting more pressure on me. But I love it. He loves to put on a show. He loves to entertain. And I love that. And I know some people hate him for it. I absolutely love him for it. I think he's great for the sport. I'm
actually shocked this isn't the co-main.
I am too, to be honest with you. I guess, Whitaker Costa, that's a great fight. Boy, I tell you what, it's put up or shut up time for Paulo Costa. Yes, and I'm not trying to disrespect him at all. Like that dude is a savage animal of an athlete. He's capable of putting anybody's lights out. But he just hasn't been active, right? You look at his activity level, it's low in that division. Man, it's starting to move on without him, and his name is starting to be a little less meaningful. And he does a great job of interjecting himself, but this is a big moment. He loses to Robert Whitaker.
It almost seems like he likes being more of a character now.
Yeah. And again, that's not to take away from the savagery that he is. That dude is an athlete. He is capable of devastation in there. But yeah, we just haven't seen the performances. We haven't seen the results. Look, it's just you got to get in there and got to get wins, right? You have to do it. Look at Khamzat Chimaev, right? I even see people starting to jump off the Khamzat Chimaev hype train, right? Because they're like, my guy's not even in there fighting. Like, you can't keep talking if you're not going to fight. And I think that's what we're seeing with Paulo Costa. He's got to get in there and deliver. And look, losing to Robert Whitaker is no bad thing. Whitaker is future Hall of Famer, former champion, absolute stud. Incredible. So, losing to Robert Whitaker is no measure that you're not a great fighter. But at this point in his career, I don't think Paulo Costa can afford to lose right now. So this is a big one. So big stakes, big names in the co-main event. But you're right. I think you easily could have put Cejudo and Dvalishvili in there.
Listen, I think with all that laying out, I'm a little shocked that it is Whitaker minus 205. I thought that would have been around minus 150.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But with that being said, there's an unknown element to Paulo Costa. Almost, it's going to sound bad to say. I wish this fight was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And you're right. It sounds bad saying it, but you're right. The reputation that Costa has at this point, right? Just look at, again, and I like the guy, man. I'm not trying to denounce who he is as an athlete, as a person, whatever. I like the guy a lot. But you just look at the track record, right? Going back to the Adesanya fight, of course. Laid an egg in that one, right? There's just no doubt about it. And then all the drama that surrounded that afterwards, and the wine and all that. And then the performance against Marvin Vettori, where you're changing weight classes on the week of, and then you don't look good. Then Luke Rockhold, spirited fight, and he won it, but didn't necessarily look fantastic in there, right? And then you've had all these canceled fights along the way. And we're talking about 3 fights. Those 3 performances right there bring you all the way back to September of 2020. We're talking 3.5 years, 3 fights. So I get what you're saying, man. And I don't think that's disrespectful. I get what you're saying. It's still a very meaningful fight, but it would have been even more meaningful, 3 years ago.
Well, and the reason I say that is just because, 2 big names, 2 guys that I utterly love watching fight, 2 guys that either one of them wins, I'm happy for them. But what does it do for either one of these fighters? Because, Robert Whitaker, I don't see a path to a title shot, even though he's ranked, 3rd in the world? I don't know where that path to the title shot is right now. He got stopped, by DDP. and then now DDP's obviously got a lot of other things on the horizon where he's going to go to. So at best, he gets by Paulo Costa, or he gets by, Paulo Costa. He's at least a year and a half away from even potentially getting a title shot, and that there may be 2 other fights in there as well.
Yeah, it feels like there'd be at least one.
Yeah, Paulo Costa, they ain't giving him a title shot anytime soon. I don't care how many wins he gets.
No, not after the performance he had, not after the weight issues. I don't think he's in good standing. Now, nobody has said that, but you just kind of read the tea leaves a little bit, right? I can't imagine that they sing his praises around the matchmaker meetings. You know what I mean? I'm sure they're a little bit concerned. So you're right. I think, Whitaker could potentially turn this into a title shot, but if he sits and waits, and when you sit and wait, that's never good, right? Because other people have performances that are more recent in people's mind, and they start calling for that. You know what I mean? His reputation alone could earn him a matchup. And obviously, anytime they go down to Australia or New Zealand, you kind of want to put him on that card, and because he's such a draw down there. But it's not going to happen right away. So you're right. I don't think this is catapulting anybody into an immediate title shot. So because of that, it has a little bit less of a immediate impact in terms of stakes.
But you know what? He does get a win here. That could set up some Whitaker and Strickland matchup.
Yep. Love that. That to me seems to be the fight that I would think is the one that gets made. That
right. And then that can then parlay depending on what happens with Dricus and Israel. That's not necessarily from like the stature of their wins and losses or whatever, but I just don't know what this does for either guy right now. So that's why it kind of shocks me that it's the co-main event, because like the implications on that division aren't there for me in this fight, albeit I'm tremendously excited to watch it.
No, it's a great fight, but yeah, you're right. Merab and Cejudo is clearly a number one contender fight, right? Whitaker and Costa is like to get a number one contender fight. Like both those guys are going to have it. And more than likely,
you get one
at best. And Costa's probably going to need more than that. You know what I mean? And more than like, Strickland probably is the name that comes up for both these guys, to be honest with you. Like that's probably, this is the Sean Strickland sweepstakes here for the winner, but you're right. Neither one of these guys is walking into a title shot with everything that's happening at middleweight.
I wish we had time to go down all the card, but we just don't. I mean, we've talked 3 fights in took us 56 minutes.
It's so amazing, man. I mean, we talked a little bit of UFC Fight Night as well, so that took a little bit of time. But
about 45 seconds. Okay, so 55 minutes and 30 seconds was on 3 fights here on this card.
Hey, that's how good the fights are. I mean, when you talk that long, we don't even get into the drama surrounding Geoff Neal and Ian Gary. I mean, come on, like that's crazy. But if we did that, man, we'd go another 30 minutes easy, man, because that's going to have all kinds of storylines. Wait for that press conference, man. There's going to be some funny stuff going on. It should be intriguing.
Really quick with Ian Gary, and I don't even want to break down this fight because, it'll take a long time. We have to go into a lot of subplots in it,
right,
and whatnot. But with everything that led up to that eventual pullout, I'm talking about family. I'm talking about, living situations, and then being sick, and then the notion of, was he really sick, and all those things. Are we going to see that same full of piss and vinegar, I'm going to talk as much S as I want, Ian Gary? Or are we going to get a little humbled Ian Gary? Even though he hasn't been humbled yet. But you see where I'm going?
I see where you're going, and I'm confident that I know the answer, and it will not be a humble Ian Gary. And I hate to make the comparisons to Conor McGregor because they're too easy. I mean, he's Irish and he talks and all that, and so it almost feels lazy. Although it is pretty cool. Like, he's so open and honest. He's like, man, I grew up watching Conor. Like, that guy inspired me. He made me believe that I could do this. So I almost hate to make that comparison, but again, we talk about self-confidence and self-belief and guys that are telling themselves something versus guys that actually believe it. No, Ian Gary is that guy. I don't think he's coming out being humble. I mean, it would be a nice storyline for him to come out and be like, I was high and mighty on top of the world, and I saw how quickly it can all be taken away from you. And that's changed who I am as a man. But that ain't Ian Gary, bro. He's going to come out and talk his ish all week long. Believe it. He is confident in himself, and the team around him is confident in him as well. So it should be interesting to see.
This is usually the part in the show where I say, John Morgan, what do you got going on this weekend? But I know what you have going on. You are watching UFC 298 this weekend. The same thing I'm doing. But do you have anything else going on?
That's it. That's all that I've got circled on the calendar this week. We had a great CFFC 129. We had a phenomenal event this past week. Working with Renato Moicano was a blast, by the way. Moicano,
he looks like a fun guy.
He is so cool, man. And he's just that guy. Like, it's not he's that guy when the camera's on. Like, he's just that guy. And he's so nice and respectful and humble, and was like, excited for the opportunity to do commentary, and he killed it, by the way. I mean, in his second language, he killed it. I mean, a couple years ago, didn't even speak English, and now he's doing a broadcast. And, he'll be the first one to tell you, I apologize. I got an accent, and I don't know some words sometimes. But he's an incredible analyst and just a great dude. So I really, obviously, I want my man CM Punk to heal up, man. He had the surgery. We always want CM Punk back. But with Punk out, man, it was great working with Moicano. But that was my last week. This week, the only thing I got on the calendar is 298, man. I'll be making my way out to Anaheim later this week. And I cannot wait to be cage side for this event, man. It is awesome. And, bro, it's kicking off a run of incredible pay-per-views, man. 298 is stacked. We'll talk next month in a couple of weeks about 299 down in Miami, which is stacked. And that will all lead us to April right back here in Las Vegas for 300. Don't even know what a main event is yet. But if you're not a fan of that card, you're just trying to look for something to talk trash about because that card is stacked. So these next 3 pay-per-views are going to be a lot of fun. How about you? You got anything else going on? You're always busy. You got about 10 things going on.
I'm very busy, but no, I'm clearing my calendar. Clearing my calendar for 298. I'm locking myself in the room and I'm going to say, wife, kids, be quiet. You know what I mean?
Taylor Swift isn't here, so leave me alone.
I got my son's 5th birthday this week. He turns 5 on
awesome.
Thursday, day after Valentine's Day.
Did you just forget your son's birthday?
No, I forgot what day it was. I know it's the 15th, but was it Wednesday or Thursday? Like, whatever. But no, man. And, I commentated fights last week. I appreciate the invitation for me to come down and commentate CFFC. It must have gotten mixed up in the email, though, right?
Did you not check your spam? Maybe it went to spam. You probably need to check your spam filters, man. You got to. I was wondering why I didn't hear back from you.
Yeah, my fault. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I won't hold it against you, man. I'll accept your apology. Okay, I won't hold it against you.
With that being said, obviously he's fired up. I'm fired up. For John Morgan, I'm Eric McMahon. Enjoy 298.